What's going on YouTube? So when the Tesla Model 3 first came out, it was quite the astonishing product. However, a lot of time has passed since then, and the market has matured, which is why Tesla is also maturing the Model 3. That's why we're with the heavily refreshed Model 3 today to put to the test Tesla's claim of better ride quality, handling, refinement, and luxury. So, with an extremely appealing price tag, is this vehicle a no-brainer? Well, let's go ahead and find out. Let's go ahead and get things started here with a quick spec dump. So the battery pack has been enhanced this year. It's now just under 80 kilowatt hours. We also have the long-range rear-wheel drive model, which is 295 horsepower approximately, and a range of 363 miles.
Now the base price for this model is around $42,500, which means after the $7,500 tax credit, this can be had for around $35,000, which is actually what we have with us today. If you're looking to buy a Tesla Model 3 or any new vehicle, we would also encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes to get the best price. Now, of course, we also can't wait to take this out for a spin because Tesla is promising enhanced driving dynamics for this refresh.
But let's go ahead and close up the hood so that we can take a look at the updated exterior as well as all the interior updates. So getting into the exterior design here, let's go ahead and start with the front end look. Now, obviously, this vehicle is always a very sleek design, and they have kind of made this a little bit sleeker for the new model. As far as the grille is concerned, this is going to be, mostly blank as a full electric product. I do want to point out that if you choose the top-end performance model, that model is going to give you a little bit more of an aggressive lower fascia, as well as kind of some body cuts over here on the side. The big thing, though, that distinguishes this from its previous iterations is going to be our headlights here. We have much thinner and slimmer headlights. Of course, they're full LED on all models. They also have adaptive abilities, and you have your LED turn signal indicator down below. Now, moving on to the wheels, you do have a few different options, beginning at 18-inch alloys. You also have 19, and you can get 20-inch alloys if you choose the performance model. This actually today is the base trim level. This is the long-range rear-wheel drive, so this is our 18-inch alloy with the aero covers, which help the overall range. You also have a little accent here with your turn signal indicator. One thing I'm very impressed to talk about is our mirrors. So you actually have fully loaded mirrors as standard equipment. So that even includes auto dimming on both the driver and passenger side, in addition to the expected things such as power folding and blind spot monitoring.
Now at the side of the Model 3, our overall vehicle length is 185.8 inches, which is almost identical to the BMW 3 Series. Now, as far as this vehicle, it is known as the Highlands. That is the term for the refresh internally, and it is going to be riding on the same platform. However, Tesla is claiming that this has vastly improved ride quality, sound deadening. We're going to be putting all that to the test when we take it out for a spin later on. All of our window surrounds are blacked out. And then let's go ahead and check out the rear design of this Model 3. So overall, the shape and stuff is going to be very similar to the outgoing pre-refresh model. However, they have added a few nice elements for this model. So we kind of have a little bit of a deck lid spoiler through here. We have new Tesla spelled out across the back instead of just the traditional T logo. And then our taillights are also going to be brand new taillights. I really love the look of this taillight unit. It's going to be fully LED with your brake light portion. You also have an amber LED turn signal indicator, and then your reverse light is actually going to be integrated down here in the lower bumper area, and that's also going to be LED. Now, as far as this lower fascia, this is going to be finished in a matte black, a little bit of body color as well, no exposed exhaust outlets, of course. Now, Teslas are known for their safety systems, and of course, that is going to be the case with this Model 3 as well. You're getting all 4 active safety features as standard equipment. That will even include things like adaptive cruise control. Now, furthermore, if you want their full self-driving system, that does allow you to do even hands-free driving in all situations, including the city. You do have to be supervising it, though. That's an $8,000 option. But guys, there is a vastly improved cabin that we can't wait to show you. But first, if you're new here, we're brothers, and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We started young, and since then we've reviewed over 2,000 cars at every price point.
No matter what you're looking for, from sound level readings to cargo measurements, we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family.
Let's learn a lot and have some fun with all the latest cars. All right, now let's move to the inside. Of course, before we get in, normally I'd show you the key fob. There's not really a traditional one with this model, though. You get the key card as backup. The intention, though, is that you use phone as key with the Tesla app. And as far as the door handles are concerned, you continue just to press in on the fat part there and grab through there, and you have the frameless glass on the door. Now, taking a look inside this updated interior, you're going to see some things that are very similar and other things that are quite different from what it was before. Before we get into specific details, though, I do want to just go ahead and start by talking about the seats. So, no matter which version you choose, you'll always get a faux leather with this single piece bucket seat. That being said, you might notice it looks a little different. That's because it has perforation now, and that is hinting at a brand new feature for this refresh, which is the fact we have ventilated seats now for the very first time. Certainly a super appreciated feature with the black leather. You can also get a white leather if you prefer that. And the seat adjustment is 12 ways of power. You also have memory seats, which are located inside the screen and synced with your driver profile. But let's go on and get inside. Now, we already kind of hinted at it before we got inside, but Tesla said they made a lot of huge enhancements to the interior. So let's talk about that material quality and build quality. So first of all, as soon as you shut the door, exponentially more solid sounding than it was before. And getting into the materials, you'll see you have a leatherette all across the armrest portion, soft touch material down here, even on the lower part of the door trim. This version comes with a cloth insert through here, kind of in a gray finish. And then up top here, we have more soft touch plastic. That's going to continue all across the top part of the dashboard. We have a new cloth insert that kind of accents through the interior. And another new thing we have is ambient lighting. And as you can see, this kind of circles all the way from the back of the door trim, all across the top part of the dash, and all around the other side. So it kind of encompasses you in. You can, of course, customize the colors and stuff. That gives you a kind of a visual elevation as well. And then finally, finishing up our material tour here, this center console here is also padded and stitched and feels pretty solid as well. So, of course, you just put your foot on the brake there to fire it up. And let's go ahead and jump into some individual features. Normally, that is the gauge cluster, but as you can see, obviously we don't have one in the traditional sense. All of your information regarding the gauges is just going to appear over here on the left-hand side of the main screen. One thing I do want to point out is that they have not added a head-up display. I certainly would like them to add that in the future since there's not a traditional gauge cluster design. Now, as we pull back to the steering wheel, we've got the latest Tesla look here with the branding spelled out across there and a flat bottom design. The wheel itself is power, tilt, and telescoping. This model here actually has the touch-sensitive turn signal, so they've eliminated both of the stalks. You'll see that a little bit later, whereas the new Model Y brings back the turn signal stalk. I'm not sure if they're going to change this in the coming model years or not due to regulations, but for now it has this thing here, which is quite fiddly, to be honest. Now, let's take a look at interior storage. Opening up our center console. First of all, you'll notice we've got some stuffed donuts inside. That's because here at Car Confections, that's our logo. We like to check the volume and compare, and in this case, we have 11 donuts inside, which is really good for a compact sedan. And that's not all. Because of this electric platform, you have a lot of versatility, including the fact that we've got this gigantic center storage bin where you can stick all types of other things. As you can see, it's quite deep as well. It does have a nice felt lining and goes back all the way to there. Furthermore, you have 2 wireless phone charging pads. That's standard features. Now, in terms of the shifter, you might wonder, where did it go? Since it's not there anymore, it moved into the screen like some other Tesla products. You'll just slide up there for drive or back for reverse, and the vehicle itself is supposed to predict which way you want to go automatically. When you go into reverse, you can see a backup camera here with some side views as well. That's one thing I'm disappointed to report, is that despite this vehicle having tons of cameras all around it, they have not given a real 360-degree overhead view like all of the competition would be making available. That being said, like I mentioned, you do have several other views, but you just don't have that overhead view. And then just tap that P right there to go into park. Your mirrors do tilt down in reverse to help you see the parking lines easier. And really, this is the point of the interior tour, where we just zero in on the main display, because this is the focus of really all the rest of the features of this interior. We'll start off with what's on the lower panel, which is our climate controls. You can adjust your temperature up and down quite easily there, or tap there to get into the broader menu. This has the vents where you have to adjust inside of the touchscreen, and you can change the aim right there for both driver and passenger. You can also take manual control through there. I want to point out we've got a heated steering wheel on board. We also have, as I was mentioning earlier, standard heated seats and new standard ventilated seats. And these are very effective seats. I have to say, some of the best ventilation I've ever felt. So their first attempt at the ventilation was really a slam dunk. Now also on the bottom part here, you have the volume slider for the audio system. Like Mason mentioned earlier, this is the standard model, the base model, so it has the 9-speaker audio system. If you go up to the dual motor all-wheel drive system, that actually upgrades you to 17 speakers. But let's see if this base sound system is any count. Yeah, I have to say, overall, not bad at all. Obviously, it's not as good as that top tier example, but it's certainly not a penalty if you want to save a few bucks and get this base model. All right, now, in terms of the infotainment system itself, the screen remains at 15.4 inches. It has a lot of, functions that you'd expect from the Tesla brand that feel very high-tech, such as the ability to spin the vehicle around, kind of tap on certain settings that you want to change. If I swipe over from the side, we can pull up our navigation map. This is just the standard navigation. You have to have the subscription to their data services if you want to get the satellite view on board. In terms of things you might be interested in knowing, no Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. That continues to be the case, as always, with Tesla models. But the infotainment system itself has some good built-in things, such as Spotify and stuff. Again, you do have to pay for that data subscription, though. Up top, you've got the auto-dimming mirror with frameless design. And then we've got the large glass roof here. As you can see, it continues to kind of waterfall all the way to the back, but there is no sunshade.
And let's talk about the rear seat area for the Model 3. Now, this has always been a pretty strong suit for this vehicle, and that's going to continue for this refreshed model. As far as the space figures are concerned, we're sitting at about 35 inches of legroom and about 38 inches of headroom. Those are very good figures for this segment, and honestly, when it comes to the legroom, I think they may be a little conservative because, of course, I brought along the official Car Confections ruler. I'm 5'9" for reference. This seat is adjusted to Drew, who is 5'8", and we are looking at a very solid, a little over 7 inches of knee room, so that is very good. Also, my feet can kind of tuck up underneath of the seats. Now, the seats themselves are going to be quite comfortable, and then when it comes to the center area, you do not have the... actually, there you go. When you pull this down, this will give you a nice long armrest with 2 cup holders inside. It's just kind of the whole headrest portion will pull down. Now, as far as the center section, this is a big improvement for the refreshed model, and that's that an 8-inch screen is now standard equipment on every single Model 3. So that allows you to do things like adjust where the fan is pointed. You also have a lot of other cool functionalities, including music, and if you have the subscription service, you'll also be able to do things like play YouTube, Netflix, or things like that, and play games as well. Down below, we have our actual vents, and then we have 2 USB-C ports. Now, as far as the door trim is concerned, it is going to be nicely done. So we have a soft touch plastic on the upper part, lots of ambient lighting, that same cloth material through the center section, and then also a surprising amount of door storage for a sedan. And by the way, I did forget to mention, but heated back seats are included as standard equipment. Now, also standard equipment is a power trunk, so that's a nice thing to be included. As far as this area is concerned, Tesla is claiming about 24 cubic feet of cargo capacity. That is absolutely a ridiculous figure for a sedan. I do believe that's going to include your underfloor storage as well, but it's certainly a lot more space than your typical luxury compact sedan, that's for sure. And by the way, if you're curious as to how this might compare in any type of segment of vehicle, we'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/vehicle rankings. On there, we've gone through numerous vehicle segments where we've tested out all the options, and we go through individual categories. So it's definitely a useful tool to deploy while shopping for a new vehicle to make an informed buying decision. Now back to this model. As you can see, if we lift up the floor, there's a lot of underfloor storage. You can use it for your charging cable or something along that regard. You also do have a frunk as well that has a little bit of extra space. When we owned our Model 3, we used it for fast food. Now, as far as the cargo length, width, and height figures, behind the second row of seats, we have 41 inches of cargo length. As far as overall opening width, about 39 inches of width, and height is going to come in around 20 inches. Cargo load-in height is going to be pretty good, as you would expect. It is a sedan, so we're sitting at about 27 inches of load-in height, and the seats themselves do fold 60-40 split. Well, guys, here we are behind the wheel of the refreshed Model 3. As you can see on the screen right now, we'll be discussing quite a lot in this test drive, including getting our sound level reading. But first, we need to go ahead and start with a hard acceleration.
All right, there's a punch of the throttle there for a quick acceleration. So like we were talking about throughout this video, this is what is the base model right now. It is the long-range rear-wheel drive. They might reintroduce a standard range later on. When it comes to Tesla, you really have no idea when they're going to add or delete different versions of models. But in terms of this, as a current base model, we're looking at about 295 horsepower overall, since this is just one electric motor at the rear wheels. In terms of the battery pack, it has been enhanced. I mentioned that earlier. We're at just under 80 kilowatt hours versus what it was previously, about 75.
Yeah, so all that together does definitely make a pretty decent acceleration, especially for a base model like this. According to Tesla, they're saying a 0 to 60 is about 4.9 seconds, even here on the base model, which is a very good 0 to 60. Now, as far as the other versions, they do offer the long-range all-wheel drive as well. That's going to have the same battery pack size. All of the Tesla Model 3s have the same battery pack size. That has around 384 horsepower. 0 to 60 on that is 4.2 seconds. And then they, of course, offer the performance model as well, which is your top-end performance version. 510 horsepower is what you're looking at on that. 0 to 60, 2.9 seconds. So a blisteringly fast 0 to 60 for that model. And as far as the ranges are concerned, you might be curious about that as well. This is actually the highest range Model 3. You can get 363 miles, which is really fantastic. The long-range all-wheel drive is 346 miles, and then the performance model is a hair under 300 at 298. But without further ado, I want to take a second here to also discuss ride quality for the Model 3. Now, Tesla says that they made huge improvements when it came to the suspension changing, as well as increased sound deadening for this model. We're going to be putting all that to the test, and in our time spent with the Model 3 today, we can definitely say they have enhanced the suspension. We can say that without a doubt because we actually owned the previous generation. If you're a new person to the channel, we did own a 2020 Model 3 for about 3 or 4 years, so we're very familiar with that product, and this one certainly feels a lot more luxury oriented. It has a much better ride overall. It's letting in less harshness from the road. And overall, I think you're going to be very pleasantly surprised with the ride quality of this. They really do mean that they've changed some elements, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And the other thing is, if you go for the performance model, that one has adaptive suspension now. So you have the adaptive dampers that can really give you ultimate performance and kind of balance as well with comfort. I think that's going to be a cool feature that puts it, more in line with its high-end rivals. There we go, nice little corner to kind of power around there to demonstrate some of the dynamic capability of this model. Again, it's not the performance model, that's what's going to give you the ultimate capability, but even this one, you can tell that despite the suspension comfort enhancements, we still keep the nice sporty edge that Model 3 has always had. When you turn, you get that nice immediate feedback through the steering wheel. It's a very agile feeling vehicle. All the weight is down low, of course, with that battery pack, so you don't have a lot of body roll. Tires have decent grip as well.
All right, and we're going to speed up to 55 miles per hour so we can get our sound level reading in this new model. 53.3 decibels is what we are sitting at as our sound level reading in the refreshed Model 3 Highland. Now we don't have to sit here and guess how that compares to other EVs out there. That's actually going to be definitely on the quieter end compared to other electric vehicles. It's not quite the quietest electric vehicle that we've ever tested out, but that's certainly a good figure, and I also think a very significant improvement over what they had before. One of the complaints that I had about our Model 3 was a pretty loud cabin, and they've really worked to make this feel a lot more premium inside by making it quieter. Notice on the windows, they're dual pane glass as well, so that definitely makes a more isolated cabin feel.
Yeah, and before, a lot of them were very creaky and rattly as well, and you can notice that there's a lot less of that with this model. It's not completely devoid of creaks. The steering column is creaking. You might be able to hear that on camera through this test drive, but other than that, pretty solid, especially compared to previous models, and this is over 30,000 miles worth actually on this, because Tesla doesn't have press cars or anything, so this is basically a rental car. So it's had 30,000 hard miles, and there's a few things that are creaking, but overall it seems like it's held up just about as good as kind of back in the previous one where we sampled. Some of the ones that came up straight off the assembly line already had this level of creaks and rattles.
All right, and let's get into our Car Confections Slam Dunk and Airball, which is our favorite and least favorite element. Drew, why don't you kick us off with the Slam Dunk?
So for the Slam Dunk, we're going to say the refreshed elements. This is a refresh where there's not a lot aesthetically different, and it might make you think that they didn't do a lot, but the biggest changes by far are certainly underneath of the vehicle. The enhanced ride quality, the better sound deadening, the overall better interior atmosphere, all those things are really, really going to impact the ownership experience.
Yeah, and things like the ventilated seats I appreciate because there's no sunshade on the moonroof. It certainly gets hot in here, that's to say the least. Now, as far as our airball is concerned, what we're going to say is some of the enhancements, well, quote-unquote enhancements, we're not a big fan of. The turn signal on the steering wheel, that's stupid, and I also I don't really like this shifter thing. I don't understand. It's out of the way anyway. It's why can I not just have a physical shifter? That guessing thing makes no sense to me. But aside from that, we also wish that they added the 360 camera and a head-up display for this model. Those are two things that I think are kind of blatantly missing. A head-up display would be a very welcome feature considering that it doesn't have a gauge cluster at all. And the 360 camera, I imagine, is just software because there are so many cameras already around the vehicle, you just need to stitch them together. Now, I do also want to quickly address your charging as well. Because this is a Tesla product, of course, this does have NACS charging, so you have the latest and greatest when it comes to the charging infrastructure. And as far as your charging speed, that comes in at 250 kilowatts. That's not your fastest charging EVs on the market right now, but it is going to be pretty decent for the current EV landscape. It's good to get you about 182 miles of charge in as little as 15 minutes. I went ahead and mentioned the range earlier, though. It ranges from, well, that's funny. It ranges from 298 miles on the performance model to 363 miles with this version as tested today. And let's talk pricing for the Model 3. So like I said at the very beginning, we actually do have the very base model. So that means the long-range rear drive starts at $42,490. That's what we have. We actually have the standard paint color, we have the standard interior color, and the standard wheels too. So this is actually a fully based model. When you factor in the fact that you can get the $7,500 tax credit if that situation applies to you, this is a very affordable sedan, especially considering all the standard features that we showed you throughout this review. Now, if you want the long-range all-wheel drive, that's about $48,000. The performance model is $55,000. If you're looking to buy any new vehicle, we'd also encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. Now, the reason you do that is because we have a tool on our website that'll connect you with local car dealers in your area to get you the best price. It's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool for dealership negotiation. We even have a monthly payment tool, so if you'd like to check all that out, you can find that in our video description, and we also have a pinned comment at the top of this video. But buying a vehicle is about more than just the original MSRP, so let's go ahead and dive into resale and reliability. First up, let's talk about resale value. As an economics graduate myself, I took the time to develop what we think is a good estimate for this Tesla Model 3's potential resale value. We estimate that after 5 years and 60,000 miles, it'll be worth 41.44% of original MSRP, and after 10 years and 120,000 miles, 12.7%. Now, it's worth noting those are below industry average for all vehicle brands. However, it is pretty much in line with other luxury brands on the German side, such as Mercedes-Benz, BMW, and Audi.
Now, normally we have the same thing for reliability. However, there's over 15 states which do not have scores for Tesla, so we have incomplete data. However, if you see the other states, you can see that it does stack up on the lower end in terms of reliability.
Now, if you'd like to learn more about our resale values or reliability information or our methodology, be sure to go to carconfections.com/resale and carconfections.com/reliability. Buying a new vehicle is a very big decision, so you want to make sure you're making a smart purchase, especially if you're cross-shopping between different vehicle brands. Now, as far as your warranty is concerned, you do have a 4-year, 50,000-mile basic warranty, and your battery is warranted for 8 years and 120,000 miles. And guys, that's going to wrap up our in-depth review of the refreshed 2025 Tesla Model 3. If you enjoyed watching this video or found it helpful in your purchasing decisions, which we hope you did, we'd really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button down below. By subscribing, you're going to get the latest car reviews such as this, and you're also going to be a part of our Car Confections family. We have a lot of fun on this channel, and I promise you won't want to miss out. If you're already a part of our family, thank you so much for your continued support, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.